Rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Here.
Mrs. Goldsey.
Here.
Mrs. Connor.
Here.
Mr. Aika. Here. Mr. Sadowski.
Here.
We'll start our meeting tonight with special recognition of the Aurora Rotary students. This month we have 2 high school students with us, and they are Natalie Davitt and Andrew Plasnow. Mr. Hayes, would you come up and introduce them, please?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I always forget this. We have to have a motion first. Can you just hold on? Motion, please. Second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson, please.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mr. Aika.
Yes.
Mrs. Goldsey.
Yes. Okay.
All right, well, thanks, Ms. Mahalis, and the rest of our Board of Education. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize a couple wonderful seniors this evening, and I was in a classroom this morning, a senior level classroom, and it was interesting that they were all talking about there's only 52, now 51 days remaining until seniors graduate. So it's pretty crazy, and then only about 3 weeks until they go on internship. So time is flying. But and that said, it's our last time to recognize any high school seniors at these board meetings, so it's a special one this evening. We've got 2 wonderful young people, and as we went through the nomination process and our committee was making selections, they kept going back to both Natalie and Andy, and they just kept on talking about them being learners and thinking about our competencies and everything that they do from a character perspective and academics perspective and leadership perspective really represented what we're all about in Greenview Nation. So with that being said, I'll let them share all about their own accolades. Natalie's teachers had nothing but wonderful things to say. I think I shared at the Rotary Club meeting a couple weeks ago that one of her teachers just said that she leads with quiet confidence, and she's done over 70 hours of community service through a variety of clubs. And that being said, it's my pleasure to welcome Natalie Davitt up here.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Davitt, and I'm a senior at Aurora High School. Here with me today is my mom, Dawn. I want to express my gratitude and thanks to the Rotary Club and its members and the Board of Education for this award. I truly appreciate having the privilege to represent my school and community. I am amazed by all the incredible work Rotary does for the community and the world, from improving health to providing quality education, promoting peace, and so much more. I admire the opportunities that Rotary provides and its dedication to creating a better world for all. At Aurora, I've been a member of Interact Club, Student Council, Freshman Mentorship Program, National Honor Society, and I also ran cross country all 4 years of high school. Interact and Student Council have both given me the opportunity to serve the school and community while helping others. I've always loved helping people, and being a member of both of those clubs has allowed me to work with others, provide service, and bring about positive change. 2 of my favorite classes in high school have been journalism with Melissa Lindley and choir with Sarah Dixon. In both classes, I have learned more about what I am passionate about. Journalism has especially had an impact on me because I've developed a love for writing, and that is what I plan to major in college. Although I am still deciding which school to attend, I will most likely go to Ohio University. In college, I want to be an active member in different clubs, including service clubs, as well as participate in intramural sports and audition to be in a choir. Thank you again for your time and consideration. I'm honored to have been given this award.
All right, next up, we've got Andy Plasnow, and Andy is just another incredible student, another multi-sport athlete, involved in just about everything you can imagine, national merit finalist, 1 of 6 this year, which is the largest group in AHS history, and pretty heavily involved with Ultimate Frisbee. So I'll let him talk more about that as well. Andy Plasnow.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Plasnow, and I am truly honored to have been chosen as a Rotary Student of the Month. Congratulations to Natalie. I know she puts an incredible amount of time into being an involved member at our school, and she's incredibly deserving of this award. I'd like to thank the Board of Education, the Rotary Club, all my teachers, and finally everyone here today for making this possible. Additionally, I'd like to thank my parents, Michael and Libby Posnock for supporting me each and every day. I really wouldn't be here without all their dedication. Since its inception in 1905, the Rotary Club has been a beacon of unity in an otherwise disordered world. Started as a social group of professionals from all aspects of life, the goal quickly turned to service, and the extent of this commitment is truly impressive, as evidenced by the Rotary Club's international fight against polio for the past 40 years. Not to mention the extensive service projects provided by our very own Rotary Club of Aurora, including assisting Mobius Nature Center and supporting the annual Fill-A-Bag Feed a Family food drive, both of which I was able to participate in this past year. Along with National Honor Society, I'm involved with the Interact Club, Philosophy Club, Drug Free Club, and Student Council, in addition to running cross-country, swimming, and track. So my schedule's pretty full for most of the year. But one thing I love about these activities is the kindness and compassion that are prevalent throughout. From encouraging each other through a workout, to working together to decorate for a dance, students lifting each other up can be seen all around. And I believe that is what makes these pursuits worthwhile. The relationships I have built during my time in high school stem from these activities, and I am grateful that Aurora has made it so easy for me to get involved. Finally, I am thankful for all the assistance that my community has provided me in order to fulfill my future plans. From scholarships to service activities, groups like the Rotary Club have been instrumental in my journey to the next stage of my life. Next year, I plan to attend Duke University and major in computer science. Additionally, I will fulfill the pre-med requirements and attend medical school after I complete my bachelor's degree. While at Duke, I will continue to run however I can, and I hope to become a part of the school's ultimate Frisbee team. Thank you for this great honor.
Pull the certificates up in front.
Thanks to both of you. Nice way to end our 21-22 school year with our high school Rotary students. We have no public comment tonight, so we'll move on, but I just want to let the students know if you want to leave now, you're welcome to say something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the approval of minutes. We have the special meeting of February 9th and the regular meeting of February 28th. May I have a motion, please? Second. All right, are there any comments or edits to those minutes? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalos,
Yes,
Mr. Amy.
Yes.
thank you. Next is the assistant superintendent of curriculum.
I have a couple of handouts for you. All right, so you're getting a little chart, and on the chart, it talks about, among other things, it talks about really for the last 3 years, due to the pandemic, the federal government has provided support for both state and local school districts in the form of the elementary and secondary school and emergency relief funds, or ESSER funds, if you will. And these provide federal dollars which have been given to the schools and the state, for that matter, in multiple phases. So tonight I wanted just to share a little bit about what funds that we have received as a school district, and then how we have spent some of those funds. So we have not spent all of those just yet. And some exciting news that we actually just found out Friday in relation to these funds. So I'll reference the chart that you have in front of you, and first talk about ESSER 1. This is the first, as you can imagine, that they gave us. This came about in about 2019-2020 school year. Had to be spent by fiscal year 22, which will be the end of this school year. But we spent that money pretty much right away, that $115,000 or so to go towards purchasing Chromebooks back in 2020. This was a rotation that we had hit, and so the Chromebooks for grades 6 through 12 were purchased. Those that grades 6 through 12 moved down to grades 3 through 5. And so we've kind of updated those every 3 years. So part of that money covered part of the Chromebook purchase there. Then the ESSER 2 funds came about a little bit later, and we have until fiscal year 23 or next year to spend these funds. On this, the next page in the chart that's given there, there's in small print, there's a chart that talks a little bit about what we've done with this money. So for example, in the 21-22 and then next year 22-23 school years, we plan to put some of that money towards increasing our bandwidth so that we have access. This was for especially times when students would be home due to some of the things from the pandemic, although we do hope 22-23 that's not going to be an issue, but we'll continue to utilize that time. We had students who needed to recover some learning, whether it was being at the high school through credit recovery or through our reading summer and math reading programs in grades K through 5. So some of that money went towards there. And then one other example, and you can read the rest of the list that's there, is we added a 3rd grade teacher this past year to help reduce class size, both from a COVID standpoint, meaning the students in the amount of space, and also just because of helping to support students who have been through the pandemic when they were 1st graders and 2nd graders, and now they're expected to do well on the 3rd grade reading guarantee. So this was just one more way we thought that we could support. So those are some of the things, and you can see other things listed there that we have used, and we haven't quite used up all the funds that were set for the ESSER 2. The ESSER 3, which is also called the ARP ESSER 3, meaning the American Rescue Plan, and the little acronyms are down below the chart as a reference. Had a little bit more restrictions on it, but still was pretty supportive and wide open. So I put on the back of your chart, you can see here, this page, it talks about the allowable activities. And we spent most of the funds that I'll refer to in the chart there. We looked at, for example, number 6, addressing the needs of children from ranging from low income to children with disabilities to English learners, that sort of thing. And then also 8 through 13 where you'll see that we heavily invested. So things like number 9, purchasing educational technology, or number 10, providing mental health services and supports, were some of the things that I'll reference in the chart. So on the back side, you'll see ESSER 3 or the ARP funds, which end fiscal year 24. We've got some things, and what we did, and again, this was the restriction, at least 20% of this needed to go towards at-risk or vulnerable populations in terms of support. So the extended learning plans, the summer projects in terms of credit recovery and math and reading camps, as we said before, that would be a great use of those funds. So for the summer of 22 and the summer of 23, we combined to put funds towards there. And then hiring a new math specialist, we already did that with the earlier funds in 21-22, so 22-23, that will keep that math specialist on to provide support for students, as well as a reading specialist that will be for not only next year, but in 23-24 as well. Those were all examples that met the 20% criteria, and as a matter of fact, if you were just to add up that much, that's actually 57% of the funds are going towards there. And then you could also argue that having a school psychologist would help qualify for those same things. So this is, again, the list of how we've spent that money, including reading interventionists, as well as support from Children's Advantage, purchasing Children's Advantage to come in and meet with young people. You might remember from the State of the Schools, we talked about in grades K-5, we work with Children Advantages for support, and then we have someone, Colin Dwyer, who actually we're going to approve their contract today for another 2 years, who works with our students in grades 6 through 12. So those are some of the things that we've used, if you going back to the front page to the chart, for ESSERs 1, 2, and 3. Now, that adds up to about $1.4 million, those funds. What we found out on Friday is that the state also received some support, and they divvied up their funds to each of the local schools from there. So it's the ESSER 2 SAS, which is State Activity Supplement, and the ARP SAS, the American Rescue Plan State Activity Supplement. And those add up to, as you can kind of see there, 1.5 million. So we basically doubled our ESSER funds on Friday. So how we're gonna plan on spending those, that's what Bill and Paul and Sal will sit down and start to talk about, run it by our admin team as well. And then I'll have another report for you about that. But those are the to be decided as we did that. But overall, over the last, it's two years, but 3 years, 3 school years were impacted by the pandemic from the spring of 2020 till really the spring of 2022. The support we got from these funds, received from these funds, is going to be about $3 million, which is a much appreciated boost to what was happening. So, any questions from the board in relation to any of the funds we've used so far?
Do the state activity supplements have strings attached to them?
Very similar to the ESSER 3. So the chart that's here, we'd have to kind of meet that 20% criteria, and then it's a little bit open from there as long as we follow those 13 criteria. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
The addition of the staff that was added with these funds, were those staff members that would continue to stay on after the use of these funds is expired?
So here's our plan with that. We're using them to supplement what we have going on, but in our 5-year plan, we plan to then either through attrition, meaning if someone retires, they're not necessarily replacing as the years go on after these funds, after fiscal year 24, or it's Bill has we have, for example, this coming year, we have 3 new teachers in our 5-year plan for this coming year, so we'll have built it in so that those folks will still be on board going forward. It just helps us kind of get to them. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So the second part of our presentation, Mike Magnanco is actually going to share a little bit about the special education profile. So I asked Mike if he doesn't mind coming on up.
Thank you, Mr. Roberto, and good evening to the board, and thank you for allowing me to speak this evening about the Aurora City School District's special education profile. In January, we received some excellent news, which Dr. Milsitich and I wanted to highlight in this month's curriculum instruction report. Each year, the Ohio Department of Education releases a special education profile. The profile details a number of different categories and indicators that are reflective of how a public school district is serving the needs of their students identified with special education services. As you are aware, the Aurora educators take pride in creating the best learning environment for all students in Aurora. The Southside audit confirms that our district-wide educators from preschool through grade 23 are doing amazing work for some of our most vulnerable students. The special education profile targets different essential outcomes and a number of different indicators that measures the health of the school district's special education services. These essential questions that the special education profile targets include the following. Are young learners entering kindergarten ready to learn? Are learners with disabilities achieving at high levels? Are learners with disabilities ready for life, work, and post-secondary transition? Does the district implement IDEA law to improve services for learners with disabilities? And are learners receiving equitable services and supports? We are pleased to share that our outcomes as measured on this profile were outstanding. These outcomes are based on the data from the 2020-2021 school year, and I would like to share a couple of them with you. 100% of the early childhood transition meetings were completed within the designated timeline. These transition meetings are based on preschool-aged learners who are referred to the district from Healthy Growth. 1.05% of our learners tested in the district participated in the reading alternative assessment, and 1.06% of the learners tested in the math alternative assessment. I'd like to note that the target is 1% or less of our learners that should be participating in this assessment. And we continue to strive as a school district to meet this mark by analyzing the learners that we've identified to qualify for the alternative assessment, as well as using the Ohio Department of Education's alternative assessment decision framework. We do this on a yearly basis, so we analyze the number of students that we've identified to try to be below that. 100% of the IEPs that focused on transition included all required transition planning elements. The transition elements focus on post-secondary education, employment, and living goals, and independent living goals. The district met the post-school outcomes target through the use of exit surveys for learners with disabilities that are graduating, as well as follow-up surveys that are completed 1 year after graduation. These surveys are used to measure the percentage of individuals with disabilities who within 1 year of leaving high school either are enrolled in higher education, participating in training programs, or are competitively employed. 100% of our special education evaluations have been completed within the 60-day calendar of receiving parental consent. The district was not out of compliance with any issues focusing on fiscal reviews, selective reviews, complaints, and/or due process hearings. The district is in compliance with the proportion of learners identified as a learner with a disability in specific subgroups. And these subgroups for Aurora included African American, Hispanic, multiracial, and white. These results do not occur without hard work, determination, compassion, teamwork, and commitment to an excellent education for all learners. Working with Mr. Roberto and Dr. Milsitich over the past 4 years, we've developed a shared belief in blending the lines between general education and special education services. In addition, our school district believes in including all learners in the typical environment with as much or as little support needed so that every learner is able to benefit from the best instruction available. I'd like to take this time to personally thank and congratulate the excellent educators that work to ensure a high-quality education for our learners with disabilities. This includes Mr. Roberto, Dr. Milsitich, our building principals, our assistant principals, school counselors, school psychologists, our intervention specialists, preschool teachers, regular education teachers, behavior specialists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, our speech and language therapists, and of course, our paraeducators. In closing, I'd like to thank the Aurora Board of Education for your continued support in ensuring that all learners are receiving a high-quality education. Are there any questions?
I have a couple questions. The bullet point that says 100% of the special education evaluations have been completed within 60 calendar days of receiving parental consent. What are the parents consenting to?
They're consenting to the school district moving forward with completing the assessment to see if their child qualifies for special education services.
So we require.
Very consent for us to move forward.
Okay, when I first started reading this report, I saw the special education profile, and I wondered if cognitively gifted were going to be included in that. I could tell by the questions that they're not, but where do they fall? That's something unrelated to this?
It is. This profile specifically focuses on students that are identified for special needs with an IEP.
Okay, and what are we doing now? Because you said it, and I read it about blending. There's a belief that children of all abilities should be blended with each other, and I agree with that. What are we doing with the cognitively gifted with regard to that? Are they in clusters? Are they? How's that working?
So, yeah, I can jump on that one. So Paul works with Shannon Gager, who's our gifted coordinator, and Janet was teacher administrator. So we look to try to have our classrooms be kind of nationally proportioned, but also put in groups so that our special gifted coordinator as well as teachers are going to be able to kind of target and help them. So they are blended, but it's not necessarily across all classrooms from there. And then there are some times where they have, for example, with math, that we pull out, or they'll go to specific classrooms. They have maybe accelerated math challenges, I guess you can say.
Okay, 20 years ago, none of you at this table were here then. You were teaching in high school. It was probably over 20 years ago. It was a time when we separated children by their abilities and their disabilities. And there was a group of parents, and I was among them, who felt strongly that that needed to change. And I think that was about the time when the education world was figuring that out too. And I remember differentiation came on the scene, and the teachers were learning how to do that. And parents knew by their experiences in sports and other places that were within these walls that separating children was not a good thing, and that blending them is. So I feel really gratified that 2 decades later, we're not only doing this, but we're doing it well, as evidenced by an on-site audit. So I thank you for your hard work, all of you.
I appreciate that vision 20 years ago. It puts us where we're at today. So
Yeah,
thank
it benefits all children for them to be with other children, at least part of the day.
you. Great, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Volleson, you're up.
Thank you, Ms. I just have one resolution for your consideration this evening, and that would be the financial report for the month of February. And in February, our revenues exceeded expenditures by nearly $7.7 million, increasing our general fund cash balance to about $16.35 million, 8 months into the fiscal year. Revenues were about 3.5% greater than projected, and expenditures about 7% less. The big thing on the revenue side, we received our court tax advances from the Portage County auditor to the amount of $10.2 million. And the advances were about $400,000 greater than what we projected, but as normal with advances, sometimes they're a little higher, sometimes they're lower. It's really just a function of how fast people are paying their taxes. So once the county has X amount of dollars, then they advance that. So based upon this, we're anticipating that our projection will be a little under for the next month when we receive our final payment from the year from the Portage County auditor. And we also have Summit County, which will come in typically in the month of April. So we're kind of hitting a point here where we'll be at a high water mark for cash for the year as our taxes are coming in. Kind of go down again until we hit the fall, and we get taxes back in again. The expenditure side, all of our expenditure categories are running below projected amounts. One thing to note here, our employee retirement insurance benefit category, our monthly state foundation STRS deduction decreased about $46,000. That's based upon our STRS payroll for 22. So the way it typically works with STRS, they set the amount, runs from January through December, and then the next year, calendar year, then they make an adjustment. And so based upon where we're at, the SRS deduction from our foundation has went down by $46,000 each month. So we'll see that for the rest of the fiscal year. So our projections will look a little higher than what our actual expenses are. So again, we'll be under projection there. So really where this takes us for the fiscal year right now, our revenues are about $281,000 greater than projected, and our expenditures about $581 less. So we have a favorable variance, about $862,000, 8 months into the fiscal year. And again, we'll start seeing that coming closer next month, because with the tax advances, again, we'll probably receive a little less than we had in the projection, so that gap will start to narrow. We'll still be running at a favorable variance. And that is the report for February.
Thank you, Mr. Volleson. Exhibit D1 is a resolution to approve financial statements and reports. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Chair seconds. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski.
Yes.
All right, we have no gifts or contributions this evening, so we'll move into personnel resolutions. Exhibit E1B1 is a resolution to accept resignations of Andrew Metroff and Jessica Trellis. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B2, resolution to employ licensed substitute teachers for the 2021-22 school year. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes. Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B3 is a resolution to award contract to Colleen Dwyer, who's mentioned earlier, a mental health professional. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B4 is a resolution to employ support staff. We have 2 people listed there. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B5 is a resolution to approve introductory appointment of support staff. I have a motion.
Move.
Chair seconds. Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes. Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B6, resolution to employ support staff substitutes. May I have a motion?
Move.
Second? May I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Exhibit E1B7 is a resolution to award supplemental contracts to district personnel. May I have a motion?
Move.
Chair second. Okay. Any comments or questions?
I just don't understand the wording on the thing. What is the 5-day, is that just 5 days a week?
So what this is these folks, both Jen Miller and Karen Morelos are on teacher contracts, but there are coaches. And so what they do is they have 5 days either before school or after school, the school year, in which they spend extra time kind of prepping and doing some of the work that sometimes they're working with other teachers and things like that. And so these are days that go towards that, sort of like supplemental days.
God.
So that's paid there per diem.
Yes. Yes.
Why did we do 1 year and then the next?
Because Jen and Kara don't ask, and we didn't catch it that they did not get paid last time. And so, yeah, they spent the time, but they didn't get paid, so we're catching up with them.
All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey.
Yes.
Exhibit E1B8 is a resolution to award an administrator contract to Mr. Bill Volleson. May I have a motion?
Move.
We all move. We all second. You can just pick 2, but.
Did you pay?
Well, thank you very much. Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
That's why I separated these, because I wanted to point that out. Exhibit E1B9 is a resolution to award supplemental pupil activity contracts to non-district personnel. May I have a motion?
Move.
A second. Okay, got it. Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mrs. Dolzey,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mr. Sobowski.
Yes.
Motion is approved. We have no discussion items tonight. Are there any board items? Right, so we will now go into executive session to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees. And we do not expect to take any vote. We have a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Mr. Lawson, please call roll.
Mrs. Dolzy,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Samolsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes.